Xiao, the Group Vice President of Gartner Asia, Mr. Andrew Phillips, the Managing Vice President of Gartner Research, Mr. Mano Govindraju, the Country Manager of Gartner Malaysia and Thailand, Ms. Lu Lilian, the General Manager of Invest Penang, the other distinguished speakers today, Jim Talik, the Vice President and Distinguished Analyst, Jamie Wang, the Principal Research Analyst, and Ms. Amy Tang, also Principal Research Analyst, members of industry, and of course all the luminaries and captains of the electronics industry. I see everyone here today from NI and also from HCAM. A very good morning, and to all our guests from overseas, selamat datang ke Pulau Pinang. Please welcome to Penang. First, I'd like to thank the organizer for inviting me to speak in this prestigious event. The Gartner Asia Pacific Local Briefing is the first ever Gartner event we held in Penang, and is part of the series of local briefings that we held in Singapore, South Korea, and Taiwan. I had told Mr. Derek Xiao earlier, I can tell you because he's a fellow Penangite. I wish I had done it earlier. Perhaps he was waiting for Penang to be back on track, because we were off the edge for some time. So I think the fact that Gartner is finally coming here is also a recognition that Penang is finally back on track. This forum this morning offers a platform for industry professionals to come together to share new knowledge and exchange views. Sharing with us emerging technologies such as wearable electronics, smartwatch, or intelligent glasses that moves our daily lives and society. Of course, I'm more interested in 3D printing, additive manufacturing. Maybe because I read many of the journals, and we are very excited by additive manufacturing. Of course, whether that would expand to greater horizons, I think depends on whether it can be applicable in the marketplace. But I would be very hopeful that all the luminaries here perhaps can see how Penang can immerse ourselves in additive manufacturing, which is probably the next big thing. IT is of course a fundamental aspect in all businesses. IT and related applications influence the way we work, support business processes, decision making, and maintain competitive advantage. Now, according to Gartner's own research, worldwide IT spending is projected to rise 2% to $3.7 trillion, where enterprise software spending is expected to grow 6.4% in 2013. Growth expectations for customer relationship management have also been raised to reflect expanded coverage into e-commerce, social as well as mobile networks and businesses. In Malaysia, IT spending is projected to rise 6% to 61.9 billion ringgit in 2013. Of course, how much we can leverage in, again, will depend on whether we are able to exploit the opportunities available, and also, I think most importantly, whether we can achieve convergence. And when I talk about convergence, it's just not only about manufacturing, it's not only about services, but it's also about public sector. Because we in Penang believe that when we talk about convergence, there is the manufacturing sector, the services sector, and the government working in concert to achieve convergence. Because if you work only in isolation, I don't think we'll be able to both maximize and optimize. And we believe in aggressively not only providing the necessary seeding, but also facilitating convergence in Penang. I think I have briefly shared Penang experiences, efforts to grow the services sector. 2 years ago, we decided to venture aggressively to build up the services sector in Penang. Principally because we observed that even though we will continue to focus on manufacturing sector as a mainstay of the economic engine in Penang, but we also notice and observe that when you look at the manufacturing sector, invariably there will be some reliance on foreign workers. And as a government, you have to always look after your own. So we want to see a greater local worker participation rate. And we should not be getting industries to come here and give employment to foreign workers. So that's why we decided that to move in aggressively in the services sector, because the services sector would employ only the local workers, because they alone would have the abilities and the skills to fulfill the demands of these foreign businesses. And over the last 2 years, I think we have notched up certain successes. We're quite surprised at the number of marquee companies that have moved here. We talk about the electronics cluster in Penang. I think Gartner knows the industries that we have. But just to recap, in case for those who do not know, we've got basically the entire top brands in the electronics sector in Penang, and so many of them were here. Not only in electronics, LEDs, 3 of the top 4 makers of LEDs are Penang, medical devices, and of course, that is of course growing. And of course, even in related fields like blood, hemolytics just came into Penang, as well as avionics, Honeywell, sound, Bose. And I'm always very proud of getting Bose to come here, because that was my boyhood dream. I could never own a Bose speaker. It's too expensive. We were young, we could only do window shopping. And then you want to talk. They always say that music is the soul of the universe. Who said that? I think Plato said that. Music is the soul of the universe. But make sure that you are listening to a Bose speaker. Because if you don't listen to a Bose speaker, you can't really hear real sound. I could never afford it. I could only do window shopping, but I'm very proud that even though I couldn't own a Bose speaker when I was a boy, but at least I got a Bose factory to come here as a good. So that underpins our foray, our venture in the services sector. And talk about shared services, some people, KPMG predicted that Penang will be one of the 31 BPO hubs of the future. But predictions will remain predictions unless you do something about it. That's why we decided to execute. Everything is about execution. They execute and to aggressively promote Penang as a services hub. And we are quite surprised at the response for some of the top companies in the world now. Lately, this year, apart from the usual like IHS, SAP, already in Penang, this year we have actually welcomed, opened our doors to companies like AirAsia, who have moved their shared services hub for IT, government procurement and human resources from Bangkok to Penang. We have also companies like Wilmar, who has opened at SSO. Wilmar is a food edible giant, it's not an electronics company. They control basically the food oil in 3 of the most populated countries in the world. Indonesia, 30%, India, 40%, China, 45%. And their revenues are, annual revenues are $45 billion US. So they are a very huge company, and they also set up their shared services hub in Penang, working towards a 247 365 days a year operation. And of course, finally, Citigroup, with a headcount of 1,000, setting up New Penang, with the volume for their credit transactions, global hub, annual transactions of 20 million, with equivalent value of 5.8 trillion US dollars. So we have seen these, I said, top companies coming to Penang, and we are ready for more. So convergence with government facilitation and also, of course, close cooperation with the private sector. Now, I would just like to add on. Now, everyone knows that Penang is the most industrialized state in Malaysia. 47% manufacturing, 46% services. So we are almost 100% manufacturing and services. And I think this is reflected by our contribution to Malaysia's imports and exports. Penang contributes more than 35% of Malaysia's imports and exports, both in terms of value and volume. So in a way, Penang's success is also Malaysia's success. And that's why we are very intent on the BPO hub, as I mentioned. In Penang, the Cyber City has been successful in catalyzing the growth of the IT industry. And of course, we intend to do more. Amongst them, of course, is in order to meet the demand. And we've got very interesting propositions. We have set aside 17 acres of land in Baru, and by the past to be the Penang BPO hub. Baru Phase 1 and Baru Phase 2 will offer 1.7 million square feet of office space within the next 5 years. The Penang BPO hub will be the Penang's biggest BPO hub project. For certain cities, you may have a glut of office space, but not in Penang. That's why we are opening up this office space of 1.7 million square feet. And of course, this is a very bold step, but as I said, based on the demand that we've received, we feel that we are able to fulfill and of course meet with the supply, meet the demand request, or else I think we'll be in big trouble with all the glut of office space. The setting up of the BPO hub will be among some of the initiatives taken by Penang to attract and retain talent in Penang. This is in line with Penang's economic development strategy. And I'm confident that BPO success in Penang will of course be Malaysia's success. In other words, the Penang state government is committed towards being competitive. To attract investors to Penang, we realize that we cannot only rely on our comparative advantage, we also must create competitive advantages. There's a difference between comparative advantage and competitive advantage. I don't want to go into Adam Smith and also economic lectures. What's the difference between comparative and competitive advantage? I'm sure the audience here knows it much better than me. But we talk about competitive advantage, which is of course an essential ingredient for the services sector and also the manufacturing sector. Now let me emphasize that we are not forsaking the manufacturing industry. The manufacturing industry will remain the mainstay of Penang's economic growth. But we believe that the manufacturing sector underpins the future growth and expansion of the services sector. And of course, to succeed, we have to be competitive. Now, relying on the World Competitiveness Report prepared by the World Economic Forum in Davos, 2013, they identified 5 problems for doing business in Malaysia, and maybe by extension Penang. What are the 5 problems for doing business in Malaysia? Number 1, inefficient government bureaucracy. Number 2, corruption. Number 3, poor work ethic in the national labour force. Number 4, insufficient capacity for innovation. And number 5, in adequately educated workforce. Now, I like to say here, and of course, you can check out my claims. You must always do due diligence. Inefficient government bureaucracy. I'm sure you all know very well that Penang has the most efficient government civil service in Malaysia through our CAT governance, our competency, accountability and transparency. So that is one of the marks. Number two, corruption. I don't think that's a problem. Penang has the cleanest government in Malaysia. I'm not saying it because I'm saying it. But you know that Penang is the only state government in Malaysia's history over the last 57 years. The only state government to be praised by Transparency International. And you can't get better than that. Because we dare to implement open, competitive tenders. So, being clean is our mantra. And being clean is a fact in Penang. Poor work ethic in the national labour force. This is something that we're working on, but we believe that we have a good work ethic with over 40 years of experience in the industry since 1970s. And I think that is also exemplified and that's also reflected by many of the top electronic companies coming to Penang. Because I think they value not only the work ethic but also our ability and command in English. So, of course, this is not a static constant. We have to continue to develop on it, but we will continue to increase productivity and good work ethic with retraining through centers of excellence such as the Penang Skills Development Corporation, PSDC. I'm sure those who have been to PSDC can testify to the good work that they've done. And this has, of course, helped to make Penang as one of the most dynamic electronic and medical devices cluster in the world. As far as innovation, I think Malaysia has seen a progression, starting from, I think, our early days as a factor-driven economy, basically relying on commodities, moving slowly to an efficiency-driven economy through manufacturing. And finally, if we want to make a great quantum leap from a middle-income economy to a high-income economy, we have to be innovation-driven. Penang realizes that unless we can have an innovative base, I think we will be stuck in a middle-income trap. That's why we have established the Penang Science Council to inspire innovation. And also build Penang as a center of excellence for science and technology. A Penang Tech Center, similar to the San Jose Tech Center, will also be set up to rekindle interest in science and technology amongst the young. And we have, I think, one of the most dynamic science fairs and successful exhibitions in Malaysia. So successful that we held in the sports stadium because of the demand and the response. So in terms of innovation, I think we are working and we are confident that we can inspire innovation because this effort is not driven by government. This effort is driven by the private sector. You know, government tends to block everything that you want to do. So you better get it done by the private sector because they just do, they don't do anything else, they just do. And finally, of course, to improve the quality of the workforce, the final challenge that was mentioned by the World Competitiveness Report. In order to improve the quality of our workforce, I always believe that human talent is the new oil of the 21st century. It is not shale oil, it is human talent. And if you don't have human talent, you will not be able to progress. So if we are to increase or to have the new oil of the 21st century, you must continue the assembly line of producing more human talent. And to have a quality or educated workforce, it requires, of course, quality educational institutions. In this regard, we have managed to attract world-class universities, such as the Asian Women Leadership University, which will be driven by Smith College, the #1 women's university in the United States. They have committed to coming here to set up AWLU on 100-acre site in Penang, on Penang Island. We have also attracted a UK university, Hull University, which I'll be signing afterwards, also at A&O, where they'll be coming here to Batu Kawan in Penang. And of course the local KDU University. So these are some of the top universities and more of them coming, which will be announced over the next couple of months. And I mean, this shows the emphasis that we are committed towards building more human talent. These universities will be providing courses such as engineering, law, accounting, logistics, and of course business studies. And we believe that this will put Penang in good state to not only, as I said, provide more human talent, but to be at the leading edge for services and manufacturing industry. So as far as the 5 challenges of the World Competitiveness Report, I think Penang is meeting them. And that's why we are confident that Penang can be at the forefront of not only manufacturing, but also services sector. But to get more human talent to come, there are also other factors involved. Penang must also be a livable city. And the ECA International has consistently put Penang and Georgetown at the top. We are the 8th most livable city in Asia and the most livable city in Malaysia. We beat Kuala Lumpur for the first time 2 years ago because of our excellent healthcare, our excellent educational institutions, and of course, excellent government. So we passionately believe that Penang will continue to be a magnet for the best advisors. But I think it requires, again, both the private sector, the government sector, the public sector, and civil society to work in concert, to work together. I would not dare to say that we have no follow up. And for every industry that comes to Penang, we will not guarantee you that you will not, but we can guarantee you that when you have problems, we will be there for you to resolve them for you. And I think the experiences of top companies like Honeywell, NI, Bose, SAM from Singapore is a good testimony of our success in fulfilling our promises. So once again, let me stress that the building human talent, retaining knowledge and focus are the key ingredients for developing IT, services, and of course R&D. I would like to thank Gartner for this collaboration today, and I would also like to welcome all the distinguished speakers, and we hope that you will come back more often. After all, Yahoo Travel said that Penang is one of the top 8 islands in the world that you must explore before you die. I'm not asking you to die, but even if we have to, it's inevitable, but I think we all can die happy. Since we have been, so once again, I have a very fruitful and productive session. I'm sure you find Penang a very hospitable place for you to venture new ideas, because I think we have an entire ecosystem evolving towards excellence. Thank you very much.